Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my gal and I ain't together. Keeps raining all the time. Life is bare, gloom and misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't get my poor self together. I'm weary all the time. When she went away, the blues walked in and met me. If she stays away, the rocking chair will get me. All I do is pray the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on, everything I had is gone, stormy weather. Just can't get my poor self together. Keeps raining all the time. When she went away, the blues walked in and met me. If she stays away, the rocking chair will get me. All I do is pray the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on, everything I had is gone, stormy weather, since my gal and I ain't together. Keeps raining all the time. Keeps raining all the time. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning on our stormy weather weekend. Jack must have known in advance the weather forecast. Good morning, it's so nice to see you all here this morning. My name is Magdalene Lindeberg and I'm the Celebration Associate. May we gather together to nurture our connections, seek inspiration, and embrace change. Awakening curiosity is our theme for May. To stay curious is to be engaged in this precious world, wanting to know more about our fellow beings and open to learning new things. We have many activities this week. Please read the announcements in your order of service. Also, there were announcements on the sanctuary screens before the service. I want to make a special reminder that this is the last Sunday to sign up for Unirondac on Labor Day weekend. This is a fun family event at the Unitarian camp in Lowville, New York, about a 2-hour drive from here. And if you're still considering, please see Sue and Walt at a table in the parlor after the service. Sue and Walt, if you want to wave your hands right now. Thank you. If you are new or visiting for the first time, I invite you to stop by the welcome table in the parlor after the service. This is where we also have coffee, snacks, and conversation. And in the spirit of intentionally gathering, please take a moment to take out your cell phone and switch it into silent mode. And then, before we light our chalice, let's take a moment to greet those around us. Hello again. Conversants. Our chalice this morning will be lit by Lissa and Susan and Silas. You can come on up. Please join me in the chalice lighting words. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. Thank you.
I'm going to stand here so I can see over my computer. Good morning, everybody. We gather this morning as people who are trying to be present, trying to be awake, trying to live with integrity in a world that makes all of that harder every day. A world that asks us to move quickly, consume quickly, react quickly. There's almost no space left where we are encouraged or rewarded to simply sit with uncertainty or discomfort without trying to fix it. We come with our certainties and our doubts, our courage and our avoidance. May this hour be one in which we loosen our grip just a little bit on control. Not to become fearless, but to know our fears and to join with others in facing them. To stay curious about our discomfort, stay open to uncertainty a little longer, and stay in connection with one another long enough to remember that discomfort is not the same thing as danger. Because in our fears and our discomfort is strength, and collective bravery is indeed holy.
If young people want to come down and pick up baskets for our Side with Love collection. And you can rise in body or spirit to join us in our opening hymn.
Good morning, everyone. It's always a joy to see you guys on Sunday mornings. I would like to invite anyone who is young or feeling young at heart to join me on the stage today for the Time for Wonder. Here, can one of you stand like right here? And one of you stay over there. Gwen, can you go over? There you go. Good spot. All right. Oh, we have new faces. Welcome. Hi. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. We don't have to talk. It's okay. I won't stand up in front of you the whole time, I promise. Hi, welcome. Who would like to open our Wonder Box this morning? I love that you're all like, we've done it. We should not raise our hands yet. Do our new friends want to try it? Do you want to see what it's up? You don't have to. You can definitely say no. You can always say no. All right. You want to try it? Come on up. What's your name? Marin. Nice to meet you, Marin. I'm Madeline. The Wonder Box I didn't fit all the way in the Wonder Box, so I also draped a thing over it, which might be a tablecloth. It's kind of small. Yeah, you can just pull it right off. It's a what? It's a disco ball. Does anyone know why there might be a disco ball in our Wonder Box? Gwen, why do you think there's a disco ball in our Wonder Box?
Because there's going to be, the glitter ball soon.
Glitter ball soon, and because we're sparkly UUs and we deserve a glitter ball, obviously. All right. Oh, what are the kids going to do, though? You're going to do what? Movies?
Movies, 2.
Plural. 2. Oh, 2 movies. A double feature movie night for the kids during Glitter Ball to ensure that all of the parents of young humans, or maybe not so young humans, can enjoy this event with us. Glitter Ball is happening on June 5th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. You can come in your fanciest attire, your most fun, creative, glittery attire. This can be like adult prom-esque, or this can be like drag show. It's up to your interpretation, okay? So this event is a small fundraiser for FUSIT. This event is also open to anyone in the Ithaca community. So please invite all of your people to come and party with us. There will be drinks for purchase. There will be snackies for free. There will also be games and a fun prize that I picked myself that I assure you is very, very fun. So you can come play games, win prizes, hang out, and just be in good fellowship with all of us, okay? Do we have questions? Charlie, do you have a question? Movies. I don't know if I can tell you the movies on the stream, so we can talk about that during RE. To check out the movies, you can also register your kids for this event. The movies are on the registration, which you can find in my Friday email. All right, what are our friends over here doing with these umbrellas, though? Because that's not glitter ball related. Eli, can you hold this really gently for me? Thank you. You got it? What are these umbrellas for? Nice, click. The parade. The parade. What parade? The Ithaca Festival Parade. So come table for us at the Ithaca Festival Parade. You sit at the table, tell all the people who come visit us what's going on, what we're doing in this beautiful church. Look at this. Thank you. Thank you. You can sign up with these QR codes here. Okay, that's enough of me talking at you.
Gwen's always in the parade.
Gwen's always in the parade. Oh yeah, you can also walk in the parade with us. You can also decorate these umbrellas in the parlor after service. I shouldn't miss that part. That's important. All right, kids. At this time, we're all going to head out to RE, so you guys can stand up and head into the parlor. If you haven't signed your children out for RE yet, you can come follow us into the parlor to do so now. I'll help you, and will the rest of you sing us out to Where You Go, the words of which you can find on the screens behind me. Can we trade?
Good morning. Has this gotten higher, or am I just getting shorter? I don't know. Anyway, now is the time for joys and sorrows. In a spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to bear witness to some of the joys and sorrows of our community, to share those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. And they're all joys this morning. A joy from Jess Brown for the Crossing Paths Youth Group. Welcome home, Crossing Paths teens. The students spent the year traveling to Hindu temple prayer rooms at Cornell, the home of a local witch, Calvary Baptist, Namgil Monastery, Tycoon Vior, May Memorial UU in Syracuse, and the Ithaca Friends Meeting. Through exploring faiths of our neighbors in Ithaca and beyond, we're able to be better stewards of this world we share and of our own faith community. It was sometimes uncomfortable entering the unknown spaces. Our young people approached it with openness, respect, and reverence, and we could not be prouder of them. Thank you, thank you. And another joy, to Jess Brown and Suzanne Quagliata, thank you for being the adult guiding hands for this Crossing Paths program. Another joy from Susie Kosak. Susie's son David, who went all the way through FUSIT RE programs in the 90s, just earned his Master of Fine Arts in Film from the College of Visual and Performing Arts at Syracuse University. Congratulations, David. And from Rachel Seymour, our sexton, thank you to all the wonderful staff and friends for carrying things along here. I feel appreciated and happy for so many well wishes. Happy Sunday. For those we are holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, into this community, into this space of healing and hope, let us call these names out loud. For those we are holding silently in our hearts, let us take a moment of silence. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us remember to extend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, let our hands be outstretched in kindness, and let us strive to keep showing up in our lives and each other with an open heart. Love and courage to us all. Blessed be, and amen.
Anybody else have a stuffy head this morning? I'm going to try not to shout at you during this meditation because that would defeat the point, but I can't hear very well, so tell me if I'm being too loud. There's this classic story where a novice wants to enter a monastery and asks the abbot, "How long will it take me to be enlightened?" And the abbot responds, 10 years. Then the novice says, "Well, what if I try extra hard?" The abbot says, 20 years. The novice shouts, "Wait, you said it was 10. Then the abbot says, "For you, my friend, it'll be 30. Tara Brach, a world-renowned psychologist, author, and meditation teacher, paints the picture of controlling as a clenched fist, an active squeezing that cuts off life and limits our view. It's natural, automatic, and it's driven by our need for safety and homeostasis. But living a fulfilled and value-rooted life means noticing it and strategically, at times, rising above our desire for comfort, our safety seeking, and our need for control. I use this simple meditation from Terebrock myself often, and what I've learned from this about letting go is that it's not a dramatic, singular experience, but a series of small, subtle, repetitive movements where we notice our fist starting to tighten around our relationships, our emotions, our fears, and we try to loosen that grip slightly over and over. So join me in this simple meditation followed by 90 seconds of silent meditation. Let go of what is past. Let go of what may come. Let go of what is happening now. You don't have to figure anything out. You don't have to make anything happen. Relax right now and rest. First note again. Each week,
we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. For those watching remotely, follow the instructions on the screen. For those attending in person, our ushers will pass the plate. Please join me in the offertory words. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond. I want to express my joy for our guest musicians, Jack and Jeremy, who are doing such a great job of fitting into the service. And for Megan McCormick, our church member and speaker today.
Thanks, guys. This reading is from Pema Chodron from her book, When Things Fall Apart. We think that the point is to pass the test or to overcome the problem, but the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and they fall apart. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, and for joy. When we resist uncertainty, when we harden ourselves against vulnerability, we suffer more. But when we begin to stay present with discomfort, with curiosity and compassion, we discover that we are actually larger than our fears. We recently moved into a new home, and my parents were there to help us move in, and they walked into the kitchen, stopped dead in their tracks, and they said, "Oh my God, you don't have a dishwasher. How are you gonna manage?" And I had to remind these two people who grew up in the 1950s, both from very economically disadvantaged situations, who certainly did not have a dishwasher, that washing dishes by hands was not that bad. Now, I'm not here to get down on dishwashers. They're great, as are every other individual innovation that saves us time and energy. But at scale, the economy of convenience has done something to us that we didn't intend or maybe even see happening. A psychological heist of sorts. Not only did it take away our need to do a lot of hard things, it took away our need to feel a lot of hard things. Things like boredom, uncertainty, wonder, and silence. Through Google and smartphones and podcasts and echo chambers and endless choices, we have absorbed the quiet belief that discomfort itself is the problem. Something to eliminate as quickly as possible, something that means we're unsafe, we're failing, or we're in need of an immediate fix. But I think that eliminating discomfort is costing us more than we realize. I think it's making us less resilient, less connected to ourselves, and sometimes less available for one another. So before I go further, I want to acknowledge a few things. First, the title of this sermon is confusing enough to want to avoid it. So thank you for being here. Second, I'm a clinical psychologist, but I have in no way mastered anything that you are about to hear me talk about. If you come here often, you've probably seen me shove donuts in my kids' faces to keep them happy. And third, that talking about avoidance, especially emotional avoidance, is not something that is comfortable, not something people like to do. When my husband Ben asked me what I was preaching about this Sunday, and I said, "Surprise, avoidance." He said, "Oh shoot, turns out I have plans on Sunday." He still came, I appreciate him. My friend sitting next to him was like, "I know what you're gonna say, but I'll come anyway." I talk about avoidance a lot. But hang in there with me, because this will allow us to literally practice what I'm preaching today. I want to talk about avoidance differently than we usually talk about it, because avoidance is complex. Avoidance is any attempt to escape or control an uncomfortable experience. At its core, avoidance is not weakness, it's protection. It's one of our most human things we do. And it's very effective at making us feel safe in the immediate sense. Many of you may have learned to avoid silence or conflict or pain because it's helped you survive at one point in your life. But avoidance isn't actually the problem. In a world that now shoves avoidance in our faces at every turn like samples at Costco, it's blind avoidance that can quietly take over our lives. It looks like scrolling when we feel lonely, intellectualizing when we feel scared, keeping busy so we don't have to feel grief, filling every moment of silence with noise, blaming someone else when we feel upset, researching instead of resting, fixing instead of feeling, performing certainty instead of admitting that we don't know. Sometimes we need these things. My own midlife crisis started when my kids got just old enough to feed themselves and sleep a little longer. And you know what I did with that quiet? No, I did not start meditating or go to therapy. I adopted 7 stray animals in the course of a year because even I would rather scoop poop than listen to the sound of my own thoughts. So, sometimes distraction is kindness. Sometimes numbing out is something that we have to do to get through the imaginable. Even psychologists are the first to tell people and encourage them at times in a healthy level of avoidance following trauma or adversity, because we need to stabilize before we deeply process anything. But here's the thing, our nervous systems are very good at short-term relief, and they're very bad at remembering the larger life that we actually want to live. And if we don't stay awake and intentional, avoidance can quietly overtake us. I see this in therapy all the time. Human brains generalize fear beautifully. A painful experience teaches the nervous system not just to avoid the original hurt, but also anything associated with it. Like a patient I had, an 8-year-old boy who had narrowly escaped death by choking on a piece of turkey. His dad saved him, and he was fine. But after that, his brain wanted to avoid eating, not just eating turkey, but eating anything. And over the course of a couple of months, this child didn't eat so much that he ended up in the hospital with a feeding tube, starving to death. His avoidance made perfect sense, right? It kept him safe at first, but eventually it started doing the opposite. I'm going to come back to that story so you don't wonder what happens to him, but I want to make this point. I see this happening culturally too. The more we organize our lives around a need for comfort, the smaller our lives quietly become. Not all at once, but gradually. In the 1600s, French philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." I think that's really profound, right? Like, couldn't we probably imagine a number of key world leaders who probably aren't regularly sitting alone with their own thoughts, right? And this was long before we had smartphones and the internet, right? This was pretty prophetic. Centuries later, we've actually built a society specifically designed to ensure that we never have to sit alone in that quiet room with our thoughts. Let me be clear though, this is not a moral issue. We are not weak or failing because we have, as a people, become more avoidant. In fact, research says that we are just as moral as we have always been. We are just less regulated. We have fewer resources to cope. And we have to intake a lot more information than we ever have in our lives. But the thing is the more that we focus on feeling good, having all the answers, fixing our problems, the more narrow and anxiety-provoking our lives can become. Because avoidance, this is the thing that shrinks now, avoidance teaches our brain that we actually can't handle the thing we're avoiding and that we need to keep avoiding it. And this creates a cycle that makes us less tolerant over time. The opposite of avoidance is something we call approach, or you could call that bravery. My patient, he got better. And it didn't take that long. Here's what we did. We gradually, very slowly, started imagining eating food, thinking about eating food, looking at pictures of eating food, practicing taking tiny bites of food. We actually practiced choking, all the things that this kiddo was scared of. And within about 6 weeks, he was out of the hospital and eating like a normal kid should. And this strategy, exposure, is something that I've used with many clients, myself, my own kid, to overcome different fears. Almost adopting a lifestyle where we approach instead of avoid, or at least we get curious about our avoidance and show up to that with some bravery. Our challenge as a community is somewhat the same. Not all at once, but gradually, for us to approach what makes us feel scared, small or uncertain. Because it's sometimes in that fear or that smallness and the discomfort that we find that gives us the greatest freedom. For most of human history, people lived much closer to uncertainty than we do now. They watched storms come without warning. They sat with illness that they couldn't cure. They buried people they loved without answers that tied everything neatly together. In some ways, their lives naturally cultivated their resilience because their brains weren't reliant on control. And strangely, most wisdom traditions throughout history have understood something that we're still trying to remember, that uncertainty is not the opposite of meaning. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness asks us to remain present with what is. Jewish traditions of reflection invite honest reckoning with the self. Christian contemplatives wrote about the false self, the defended self that cannot fully love because it's too busy staying protected. Many indigenous traditions teach that mystery is not a problem to solve, but a reality to live inside of. In fact, that's kind of what UUs believe in a way. Different languages, same truth. The defended self is the sleeping self. Wakefulness does not mean living in constant emotional exposure or perfect vulnerability. It means becoming willing to remain present for reality, even when reality is uncertain, uncomfortable, or incomplete. I want to tell you a story from my family about facing uncertainty in a time that we had to practice that. Our oldest kiddo, a few years ago when they were 3, came to us tearfully and emphatically and said with all kinds of certainty, "I am not a boy or a girl." And while our child was very certain about what they had said, it was an exercise in uncertainty for the rest of us. Now, at first, I come striding into the situation, holding my lapel, and I'm like, "Guys, back up, back up. The child psychologist is here. And I am inclusive and I am evidence-based. I got this." And, what I realized quickly, though, was that I'm not my child's psychologist, right? I'm my child's parent. And looking back on it, I can now say that I was gripped with fear. Not because I had a gender non-conforming kid, I felt comfortable with that idea, but because I didn't have answers to the questions that I wanted to know. I didn't know what this meant. I didn't know what pronouns they wanted me to use. I didn't know what they wanted me to do when someone called them a girl or a boy. I didn't know how best to support them. And my 3-year-old couldn't answer any of those questions. I tried. I also was afraid. I was afraid of what could happen. I'm a psychologist, so I know the statistics on this stuff. I know that this is a risk factor. I know that the world can be really unkind. And I wanted to protect my little kiddo. So I did what I do as my avoidance strategy, which was to analyze, to read, to think, to try to find answers, and to talk until people have their ears walled off and don't invite me to dinner anymore. And I pushed too hard on some of the people around me because of that fear. I was defensive at times, terrified that someone would hurt my kid, and I was sometimes just too pushy with my kiddo, trying to understand and get answers about what this all meant. Simultaneously to that, my parents, who live in Georgia and who are very conservative people, were going through their own exercise in uncertainty with this, and slightly differently than I was. They were trying to understand a concept that was completely foreign to their reality and really undermined everything that they kind of built their foundation of reality on. And this caused conflict. We fought, we yelled at each other, we cried. We spent a lot of time talking and not talking about this particular issue. And this was challenging. I had friends say to me, you're not going to take your kid to Georgia, are you? You know, like are you sure that's safe? Or how do you reckon with having parents who don't really understand this and still keep them in relationship? And those were questions that I had to ask myself. And in the end, we could have avoided, and maybe for some folks that might have been the right decision. It's a really complex one, right? But we chose to lean in. And we leaned in knowing that it would actually cause us some pain and that we would have to work really hard to get through that. But imperfectly and slowly we stayed in it. And we started to soften. And I started to realize that I needed to let go a little bit and unclench that fist. And my parents started to realize that they might need to get a little curious about what they were facing in themselves. And my parents ended up reading the books and joining a support group and working the pronoun they into their vocabulary. And I never felt more proud to be their daughter, because I think that's the work, right? That's the work that we call love. It doesn't mean we're going to feel good. It doesn't mean that we're not going to feel scared, but it means that we're going to be brave, and we're going to be brave together. And had we not done this, I think what we would have avoided in our avoiding was each other. I didn't successfully protect my kid from experiencing any hurt. There were times where my kiddo felt really sad when grandparents called them a boy, or felt really confused about why a kid in Georgia didn't understand when they said, you know, there are 3 genders. But the point wasn't to protect my kid from ever having to face a hard thing, or me for that matter, but it was about knowing that we could face hard things and do it together and get through it. This is not a story about gender, but it's a story about what happens when we choose to stay awake instead of reaching for the easier thing. What we could have avoided, again, had we avoided, was something bigger, something that we didn't really know or have hope that was possible, but it happened. Avoidance doesn't only distance us from pain. Eventually, it distances us from connection, from repair, from intimacy, from transformation, from community, and maybe from God. When I was a kid in a Southern Baptist megachurch, I sat in the pews and heard the phrase over and over again, "You are not in control, God is." And I think that was being used a little differently than how I would interpret it today, but I still see it as slightly relevant. Here's how I understand it. Whatever you imagine God to be or not to be, you believe that we're called to love. Not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. And for me, God is a place, one where we rise above ourselves and are able to live a more meaningful, fulfilled, and virtuous life. And if God is love, God is also bravery. Not perfection or fearlessness, but presence. To be scared and brave at the same time. The willingness to remain awake to ourselves and one another in a culture that's constantly encouraging us to disconnect, to numb out, and to retreat into control. Because if we lead a life focused on control, we lose our virtue, our power, and our connection to what is holy. In this way, I see wakefulness as a kind of resistance. When we stay awake, we become more capable of compassion, repair, and meaningful action. Not because we become fearless, but because we stop abandoning ourselves and each other in the moments of discomfort. Because discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is what growth feels like. Sometimes it's what honesty feels like. Sometimes it's what justice feels like. And sometimes it's what fully alive feels like. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from constantly managing ourselves instead of inhabiting ourselves, from always trying to stay one step ahead of pain, uncertainty, and grief. And I think many of us are tired of controlling, tired of optimizing ourselves into safety, tired of carrying fear privately while appearing functional publicly. And I think many of us miss each other. We are amidst an unprecedented youth mental health crisis and an epidemic of loneliness. I see threads of avoidance in my work all the time as the root of so much suffering, individually, interpersonally, and systemically. Because of this, avoidance is one of my greatest fears. So much so that, you ready for this little mind bender? I avoid my own fears of avoidance by pushing others too hard into seeing theirs, as evidenced by what I'm doing here today. At my house, I'm something of like the avoidance police. You take off your socks because you don't like the way they feel. Avoidance. That stack of mail that sat there for 4 days, I'm staring at my husband. Avoidance. But is that helping anybody? Probably not. The thing is, I'm probably actually driving my family away from this concept by pushing it so hard. And that's where I have to be honest with myself and make this invitation I'm about to make, not just to you, but to myself and to us collectively. So here it is. First, have compassion for yourself. Your coping strategies are not evidence of failure. They are evidence that you are human. But begin to notice. Notice the moments where discomfort immediately triggers escape. Notice the urge to fill every silence. Notice how quickly control can feel safer than curiosity. And maybe, just sometimes, pause before reaching for relief. Stay in the conversation a little longer. Sit in the silence a little longer. Tell the truth a little more honestly. Hold back from saying something you really want to say. Talk to someone you don't fully understand. Repair something that you've been quietly stepping around. Not constantly, not perfectly. This is not a productivity challenge for the emotionally enlightened. It is just a new value to adopt. One that people didn't have to maybe adopt hundreds of years ago, but now in the world that we live in, we have to be aware of. Remind yourself, scary doesn't always mean dangerous. Discomfort doesn't always mean unsafe. Don't abandon yourself or each other because of feelings. At our house, my family proactively practices doing hard things every day. My littlest, Ren, cringes as he pours cold water on his head. My oldest, Stony, cringes when they do anything, honestly. But, maybe as they're picking up dog poop, this is something that's disgusting to them, And no, this is not just me collecting on their rent. This is me helping them build a nervous system that knows that discomfort can be tolerated. And we do it alongside of them. I do it with them too. They hold me accountable for it, and absurdly, it somehow works. They brag about doing hard things when they get home from school. Whenever we ask them to face a new hard thing, they have a memory and a foundation to stand on that says, I can probably do that. And they can face those things with greater grit. And every time their world gets a little bigger. And I think that's true for all of us. We can be scared and brave at the same time. So, at coffee hour this morning, challenge yourself to do something hard. on purpose, in community. You and a friend go eat something off the table that you do not like to eat. Talk to someone you don't know, or stand in silence, depending on who you are, and wait for someone to say, "Mike, what's wrong with you? You're being too quiet. You're never this quiet." And then tell them what you're doing. Tell someone about a mistake you've made or a fear you have. But just practice it. Because I promise, even doing it that way will help you stand facing upstream in this current that wants to pull us under. Remember, this is not a solitary practice. We build our resilience together, or we don't build it at all. Thank you.
Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn.
So, go from this place a little less certain and a little more awake. May you find in the discomfort you've been avoiding, not punishment, but possibility. May you be curious enough to be changed and brave enough to let that be holy. We can do hard things. We can do them better together. Go in peace.
Fix this or can I move? Oh, you got it. There we go. Thank you. So I have an introduction to this song. If you can see the title, it says it ain't necessarily so. There's a couple of things to say about the song. One of them is you don't know that this is written as a Unitarian opera. You'll understand that when we get into the lyrics and what they're actually singing about. But the other thing is it has a call and response section, two call and response sections, and they are scat singing. And I think, given how well you just sang this little light of mine, I want you to let your light shine and do the scat singing call and response with me. And if you promise to use your outside voices, when you leave today, you'll say, hey, I scat sung. That's amazing. And it will be. So we're going to practice the scat section right now. There are, I think, 3 call and responses. The first one is wah-do. Yes. Zim bam badaloo. Hooty yada wada. Scatty wah. Oh, great. You guys did great. Okay, so we're going to do the song, listen to the Unitarian components, and also in the Jonah section, it has the best rhyme in the entire American songbook. Just listen for that. So those are the things I wanted to say about the song, so enough of that. Let's just have some fun. Ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. The things that you're liable to read in the Bible, they ain't necessarily so. Little David was small, but oh my. Little David was small, but oh my. He fought big Goliath, who lay down and dieth. Little David was small, but oh my. Wah-do, zim bam badaloo, hooty yada wada, scatty wah. Yeah. Old Jonah, he lived in the whale. Oh, Jonah, he lived in the whale. He made his home in that fish's abdomen. Oh, Jonah, he lived in the whale. Little Moses was found in a stream. Little Moses was found in a stream. He floated on water till old Pharaoh's daughter, she fished him, she says, from that stream. Wah-do, zim bam badaloo, hooty yada wada, scatty wah. Yeah, it ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. They tell all you children the devil's a villain, but it ain't necessarily so. To get into heaven, don't snap for a 7, live clean, don't have no faults. Well, I takes the gospel whenever it's possible, but with a grain of salt. Methuselah lived 900 years. Methuselah lived 900 years. But who calls that living when no gal will give in to no man what's 900 years? I'm preaching this sermon to show it ain't necessarily so. Thank you. Have I shot my shoe today? Yes, I shot my shoe today. Thank you.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our service has ended. Let our true service now begin. Go in peace.